You thought this phase was over? You told yourself you were stronger now. You convinced your mind that enough time had passed, that whatever happened no longer had power over you, that the memory should not still feel this heavy. But if it still hurts, if the thought still returns without warning, if the silence still feels louder than it should, then something inside you never truly moved on. And here is the part most people misunderstand. That does not mean you failed. It means something was never resolved. Stoicism was never designed to comfort you. It was designed to expose illusions. And the most dangerous illusion is believing that time alone fixes what the mind refuses to confront. Stay with me, because by the end of this reflection, you will understand exactly why this pain stayed, and why it only begins to disappear after one specific internal shift. Most people misunderstand emotional strength. They believe strength means suppressing feelings. They believe it means staying busy enough to avoid reflection. They believe it means convincing themselves they should already be over what happened. Stoicism rejects all of that. Not gently, directly. Stoicism teaches that pain which remains is not random. It stays because something in the present continues to feed it. And this is where the discomfort begins. Because the pain is not being sustained by the past. It is being sustained by your current judgment. You may appear functional on the surface. You show up to your responsibilities. You speak normally. You perform what is expected of you. But internally, there is resistance, a quiet tension, a sense that something is unfinished. And the reason it feels unfinished is not because closure never came. It is because your mind refuses to accept finality. This is the first major mistake most people make. They assume pain means something is missing. Stoicism teaches something far more unsettling. Pain persists when the mind continues to negotiate with what no longer exists. The event ended. The person left. The moment passed. But your judgment never stopped. And judgment is where suffering lives. Here's what most people get wrong. They believe memory itself is the problem. It is not. Memory is neutral. What hurts is the meaning you continue assigning to it. Every time you replay what happened, you reinforce its importance. Every time you question your worth because of it, you renew its authority. Every time you imagine a different outcome, you reopen the wound. This is not emotional depth. This is emotional captivity. And captivity feels familiar, which is why it is so difficult to leave. Let me tell you something most people are never told. You do not suffer because you care too much. You suffer because your mind refuses to release control over something that no longer responds. Stoicism does not ask you to forget. It asks you to stop granting power where you have none. It asks you to stop granting power where you have none. This is where resistance appears, because letting go feels like losing. But here is the reversal most people never see. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is accuracy. It is aligning your inner world with reality. Reality does not negotiate. Reality does not explain itself. Reality simply is. The moment you stop arguing with reality internally, something shifts. And this is where Stoicism becomes dangerous in the best possible way, because it removes excuses. It forces you to separate what is within your control from what never was. Your thoughts are within your control. Your judgments are within your control. Your attention is within your control. The past is not. Other people's actions are not. Outcomes are not. Suffering continues when you invest emotional energy where you have no agency. This is why distraction never works. Distraction avoids the problem while keeping the attachment alive. Stoicism does the opposite. It directs attention toward the attachment and asks the question that feels threatening. Why are you still feeding this? Most people never ask that honestly, because the answer exposes something uncomfortable. The pain stayed not because you were attached to them. The pain stayed because you were still trying to control the meaning of what happened. That realization changes everything, because control is where the ego hides. And Stoicism is not interested in protecting the ego. It disciplines it. The ego wants explanations. The ego wants justification. The ego wants the story to end differently. Stoicism responds with clarity. The story already ended. Your resistance to that fact is what hurts. Acceptance is not approval. Acceptance is recognition. Recognition that reality has already claimed its place in time. Once this recognition becomes complete, the pain begins to lose relevance. Not immediately, but steadily. This is why Stoicism feels uncomfortable at first. It removes the emotional drama the mind secretly depends on. It replaces intensity with clarity. And clarity feels empty before it feels freeing. At this stage, many people believe something is wrong. They feel a strange quiet, a reduction in emotional noise, and they mistake that quiet for emptiness. It is not emptiness. It is space. Space that was previously occupied by rumination. Space that was filled with imagined conversations and alternative endings. Space where discipline can grow. Stoicism teaches that peace is not something you add. It is something that emerges when illusions are removed. False expectations, false narratives, false attachments. When these are removed, the mind becomes lighter, not happier, clearer. And clarity is what ends unnecessary suffering, not force, not time, understanding. This is why Stoicism has endured for centuries, not because it promises joy, but because it delivers stability. A stable mind is not free of pain. It is free of amplification. Pain multiplied by judgment becomes suffering. Pain observed without judgment becomes information. At this point, emotional discipline becomes natural. You stop explaining yourself to people who do not listen. You stop chasing closure that does not exist. You stop waiting for permission to move forward. You move forward because clarity leaves no alternative. This is not motivation. It is alignment. Alignment between reality and judgment. When judgment aligns with reality, resistance dissolves. This does not make you emotionless. It makes you precise. You feel what is present without dragging the past into it. You respond instead of react. You no longer confuse intensity with meaning. This is where inner freedom begins. Not through escape, but through understanding. If this reflection resonates with you, understand something important. You are not weak. You are not behind. You are not broken. You reached the point where avoidance stopped working. And that is where Stoicism begins. If you want discipline over comfort, clarity over illusion, and control over reaction, subscribe. This channel is not about feeling better. It is about becoming unshakable. Because once you understand why this pain stayed, it no longer needs to rule you. Most people never reach this point. You just did.